Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hello and welcome. I'm Gwenm. I'm your host of Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale, and I am joined today by Patty Alfonso, who is an erotic priestess. I love that. Embodiment mentor and creator of Embody Her. She's also known, and I love this term, by the way, the orgasmic whisperer. Yum. And the author of 2 books, Your Body as the Creation of Consciousness, which is her own work and a compilation of other authors as well, and Dancing as the Body of Consciousness, which I loved. She has over 2 decades of experience, and she bridges the gap between the sacred and the erotic through deeply embodied trauma-aware approach. She invites women back into their erotic innocence and to remember that nothing needs to be fixed or is missing because the body knows. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yay, I'm excited to be here. I love your intro. You're like, buckle up, babes.
I always find it
Button in my seatbelt. Let's go.
Buckle up. Yes. I learned something in tango. It's either that I'm like this or I'm like this. And we're going to go there today. We're going to talk about the body and dance. And you have such a beautiful history of embodiment starting at a very young age. And we're just going to go there because you talk about being like 3 years old and everybody already saying there's so much wrong with you because you're so big and so expressive and so in your body. And feeling as though, you know, your body is wrong and, you know, your father is already uncomfortable. You know, just looking at this exquisite creature that is his daughter. And I want to talk about how we become so uncomfortable in our bodies at such a young age, which is such a tragedy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You know, it is a tragedy. I did come into this world with a whole lot of energy, a whole lot of just bigness and joy. And I think my family, they just didn't know what to do with it, you know, and I think that has a lot to do with, you know, we're culturally trained this way also, but to tone ourselves down and make ourselves small and not make other people uncomfortable. And I had a mentor who once told me that, oh, let me see if I can remember. I was like, but my family keeps telling me that I'm this and I'm that. And he's like, no, it's not you. It's like their lack of that they're trying to, you know, push down on you. It's that they don't have it, so they don't know how to deal with it. It's not that what you have is wrong. And so, you know, I spent years just trying to make everyone else around me more comfortable. And then that just meant that I was just shutting myself down completely. And it really wasn't, I mean, that led me to years of like alcohol abuse and drug use and all of that, because what are you going to do with all of that energy if you're not allowed to just like be it? How else are you going to numb it and cool it down? So yeah, I mean, my journey began in letting go of all of that. It began in my late 20s when I sobered up and started doing energy work and started just exploring myself. And it really just everything changed and catapulted when I started doing S Factor and sensual feminine movement and allowing myself to have right? I mean, we're talking like when I talk about like this big explosive, you know, energy, where it's also erotic energy. It's also sexual energy. It's the life force energy that fuels your body and your life. And so if you're smashing it down, then what is that going to do to your body? And what is that going to do to your life? And so when I found S Factor and started doing sensual feminine movement, that really woke everything up. And then my life completely shifted and changed starting with that, I'm 20 years in now
Yes, well, and
to
I was
this
going to say,
journey.
so the pole dancing, right? Because the S
Mhm.
factor involves this sensual, sexual, erotic energy of just like, basically
Mhm.
the goddess coming out. And again, you
Yes.
talk about, saying, well, I'm here to, to nurture my divine feminine or my goddess, and most people not knowing what that means. But
Yeah.
there's so much stigma around pole dancing, right? And how we
Hmm.
expose our bodies. And I think you talk about the five elements of sexuality and intimacy. Just defining, I thought it was so interesting the way it was defined, sexuality,
Hmm.
sensuality. If you can just like speak to a little bit around that, because I think there's so much stigma around just being with our bodies and embracing our sexuality, that also automatically means it belongs to other people. And it's like, no, it's a,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. When I started pole dancing 20 years ago, there was a lot more stigma than there is now. But what I've noticed in that transition, and so S Factor, that body of work is very, very different because to me, it was like a spiritual journey with my body to get so delighted and present with my sensuality and my sexuality as a gift. What I've noticed in pole dancing over, and Sheila started that 30 years ago. So 30 years until now, there really isn't anything out there like S Factor. There's pole dancing classes, but and now there's pole competitions and pole conventions. And so it's sort of gone more into like the masculine
Mhm.
area of like, you know, and S Factor stays true to the sensual feminine movement, the way the feminine body is supposed to move, honoring that our bodies are made to be titillating and
Mhm.
beautiful and expressive, and that there's an innate energy that's available in the feminine body. And she talks about, our feminine geniuses, and then that there's also masculine geniuses, things that are innate to the male body, and they're two very different things. So that exploration of sensuality, like I said, it's the foundation of what has changed, in my whole life. And in terms of the elements of sexuality, I actually don't teach that work anymore. The book that you're referencing is way old. My new book will be coming out soon.
Yeah.
But that body of work, it does. So what it talks about is the word that I like to use is ungalump. Like this is galumping, right? You're just
I
like
love
put everything together, into one category. But when you really on an energetic level start to tease that apart, then you see that there's different elements to this one thing. So you're talking about the elements of sex, right? So sex, right? But when you open it up, we're also talking about sensuality. We're also talking about orgasmic energy. We're also, and it's been so long since I've taught this work, actually, don't think I remember all five of them. So, teasing apart what all of the energies are in that one word that we put into one category. And the work that I do now with the erotic blueprints actually does that as well. And with the erotic blueprints, we're talking about the five different ways in which your body experiences pleasure, and that everybody's body is different. So you can't, I'll just name them: energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. So the way
it.
that you approach an energetic body is not going to be the same way that you approach a sexual body or a kinky body. Those different kinds of bodies have different turn ons, different superpowers, different shadows that they have to deal with. So that's really, the essence, right? Is
Yeah.
getting really clear on who you are as a sexual creature, who you are as an erotic creature, and who you are in relation to someone else, who you are in relation to the world around you. And for me, sexual sovereignty, erotic innocence, these are all of the themes and the topics that I work with women and empowering them to really reconnect to their sensuality, their sexuality, and their spirituality as one thing, right? The sacredness of your body, the sacredness of your sensuality and your sexuality.
Yeah, because we often do, like, separate them. We're either in the body, or we're in our heads, or we're in
Right.
spirituality, right? And people tend to really compartmentalize. And I want to get into just defining erotic innocence for a minute. But before we
Mhm.
do, you bring in this, the erotic blueprints, right? So understanding how you're coming in. But most people don't even know what their wiring is. They just have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
And there was a radical idea in your book for me, which is, especially today, where there's so much around boundaries, right?
Hmm.
We're working with boundaries and barriers, and masks, and it's a hot topic, right? Because
Yeah.
people need to know what their body's no's are.
Yeah.
And so people put in these, like, solid, I'm gonna put them stakes in the sand, right? These are
Hmm.
my boundaries. Uh, and I love the way you talk about, well, when you understand that you're essentially an infinite being, right?
Hmm.
And it does require a lot of work, though, to understand what your shadows are, why those
Hmm.
boundaries are there, or why those barriers are there, and then to not need them anymore. That
Hmm.
opens up to the wisdom of your body, uh, and allowing your body to kind of lead
Yeah.
into its wisdom, right? Which is different necessarily from your mind wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for, so there's a lot of different, um, there's the boundaries that we use to keep things out, and
Mhm.
those boundaries that we create as a reaction, um, that are really solid. And there comes a point where I think they cut you off from too many things,
Mhm.
right? And when you set those, and I think boundaries, and they're so important. So I'm just breaking this up. Everybody stay with me. We're just ungalumping this conversation.
Yeah.
So there's boundaries that are like thick walls that nothing and no one can get through, that you have erected because you think that that is what makes it safe to be in the world. And then there's, once you sort of need to take those down sometimes and get
Mhm.
really more present with yourself and with your body and what you need and what you desire, and create boundaries that are from sovereignty, not boundaries that are from fear, right? And
Yeah.
that journey of going inward and getting to know yourself, right? So some boundaries is like, oh, because so and so told me that that's not appropriate, so I'm not going to do that, right? That's not even like your own thought or feeling, or it's not anything. That's an imposition that someone else has put on you. So boundaries that are permeable, that can breathe, that are flexible, I think those are really important. I have clarity on what works for me and what doesn't work for me, and I can stand in that clarity. I can stand in that sovereignty, and I can also be flexible, because the reality is that, using that term as an infinite being, right?
Mhm.
Everything is available, everything is possible. We can receive everything. Like, all the things that you're resisting and trying not to receive with those really hard, intense boundaries, they're also cutting off a lot of amazing things. And so to be so deeply connected with your inner power, to
Yeah.
know that nothing could actually destroy you, that's a whole different set of boundaries. So there's a big spectrum here as well. And for me to know, like, it doesn't matter what anyone else does or says or how they behave, I know that I can take care of myself, that I'm surrounded by people who love me and adore me and know who I am,
Mhm.
and that I will thrive beyond anything that life presents to me. That's a whole different level of sovereignty, in my opinion.
It is. And there's a difference between and I think there's, when we talk about shame, that I think when you have a thought or a desire and it's accompanied by shame, is very different from feeling, I call it like it's my resonance meter. It's something
Mm,
that's so deep within my body that knows, oh yeah, this is an alignment and this is not an alignment, which is different from, oh, that's bad, that's good, and having a
exactly.
lot of judgment around it. Uh,
Exactly.
and because our bodies are wired for this incredible, delicious pleasure. And I think I was going to say, what reminded me was the film Red Sparrow, and I don't know if you've seen it with
I
Jennifer Lawrence.
haven't. I know about it, but I haven't seen
You
it.
know, there's a great scene, and I'm just going to spoil it for everybody.
Do
There's
it.
a scene where they're teaching them to be assassins and how to, to seduce and so on. And she has
Ah,
that the trainer is teaching one of the girls, and she's like, close your eyes. And so, it's a radical idea in the film, where the woman is touching the woman and she's getting turned on. And she says, you see, the body doesn't know the difference, right?
mm-hmm.
The body actually doesn't know the difference between what it desires and pleasure, which can go in direct conflict with what we think we should. Which brings me
Mm-hmm.
to, usually when we're kids, we're taught, this
Yeah.
isn't appropriate or this is not good. And do you think that a lot of people, and I'm going to say women, but I think men as well, is how we define maturity is suppression?
Mm. Wow. Can you say more about that? Because I would think the absolute opposite. So please say more about what you mean
Okay,
by that.
so when I
Like,
say maturity, and I'm saying, well, there's okay, which is different from wisdom. I'm talking about we are taught maturity is a level of, containment,
right.
suppression, and
Okay.
this is how we define as we grow older. It's kind of like, well, I'm not allowed to do that anymore. I'm not allowed to want that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not in my wifeness. That's not in my husbandness or my partnerness or
Right.
as a father or a mother. That's not part of who I am. That was the
Okay.
wild child.
Yes, thank you for clarifying because what I heard you say was that maturity is suppression. The part that I missed was that that's what we're taught. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, so no, I mean, listen, especially as a woman right now at the tail end of perimenopause, really stepping into menopause and really stepping into, even on a deeper level, my fullest expression. I think that is what maturity brings.
Mm-hmm.
The other, the getting stuck in the judgment and the right and the wrong, and you shouldn't do this and don't do that. That level of suppression is more about control. And it's about controlling something that you're not comfortable with, controlling something that you're not comfortable with because you don't yet allow yourself to possess it, to have it, right? I have an incredible amount of joy. I've had an incredible amount of joy my entire life. I do this body of work on a personal level, and I have two sons in this soul language thing. Like the sun is everywhere. Joy is like my baseline, always has been. The people that I find that are most threatened by that and that are most annoyed by that are the people that don't have access to joy. But the reality is that we're all infinite beings. We all came here to experience this world and this reality, and we all have access to joy, right? So suppressing, and this is so evident just in our political climate and our social climate and all of that. Like attempting to suppress something that you don't understand because you want to control it because you're afraid of it. That's not living. That's not life. That's why I was like, wait a minute, I think maturity is full expression. And
Oh, I
you
agree
see
with you.
that.
But
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
just
no.
what we were taught, right? Like, well, you're being immature, you're being,
Oh
that's
God.
unacceptable, I think, is,
Yes.
how most
Yes.
people, it's even being in family, just looking at, oh,
Yeah.
how you're expressing, the idea of pole dancing, which I know is more, acceptable nowadays, but still carries a huge
Yeah.
stigma,
I
being
forget. I
comfortable in
forget that
a
it
body. I
carries
know
a
you
stigma.
forget because you're right.
I totally do. I keep having to remind myself, oh, that's like my kinky. That's my kinky side, right? So in the erotic blueprints, we define kinky as whatever is taboo for you. It's not taboo for me, but I have to remember that for other people, it still is very taboo. And I forget just because I've been doing it for so long.
Well, a sensual dance, which I encourage every woman to do, even do it for yourself, just put on your camera for yourself and
Yeah.
feel into and what's interesting about it is it does show you very quickly where you're performing, where your
Yeah.
fears are, where you're stuck in your body,
Yeah.
what needs to be liberated. And so I'm like, oh, just if you get to do it for yourself alone in your living room,
Yeah.
watch yourself instead of doing, this like,
And can I say, this is also what makes S Factor special and different, in my opinion, because the work is for you. This is not about putting on a performance or doing it for your partner. You can. But listen, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've danced for two partners once each because this is not for someone else. This is for me. We also don't do mirrors in studios, for that reason, because it's not about what you look like. It's how you feel. How do you feel in your body? How does it feel when you stretch in that way? Like, how does it feel when you open your chest, right? What does it feel like in your body? It's not about what it looks like or how someone else perceives it, or it's not about any of that. It's for you and for your body and nobody else. And what you do with that, it's up to you. But yeah, I mean, full expression, I think I know it's what I'm striving for. And I think it's what a lot of people are striving for is how can I be fully expressed, fully own myself, fully be present with myself, be in communion with those around me. Like you don't want to cause harm, and how can I just communicate more of who I am so that I can find my people instead of trying to fit in with people that aren't your people. They don't understand you. Move on. Like stop trying to
yeah,
explain yourself.
and with family though. So I don't know how you
Yeah.
feel, like how you are in your family today. But how does your family respond? I mean, they might be very used to you by, 20 years later or whatever. They're like, okay, there's nothing that we're going to do to fix this.
Yeah.
Um, but how do you find that they're relating to you now, having gone through and been in this
Yeah.
journey?
Gosh, my parents passed away like 10 years ago, and they knew me my whole life. So at one point, they're just like, we don't get it, but we love you. And that was a lot. And even that is not the most expansive kind of relationship to have with family. Like, I don't get it, but okay. Or there was still that, like, you're kind of weird energy, but, you're family. So I guess. And
Yeah.
so, my chosen family, the people that are in my life, every day and I interact with, they absolutely adore me and welcome me. My friends call me Patty Joy. Whereas for my family, my joy was annoying and too much. And like, can you stop doing that? And my friends now are like, Patty Joy, you're here. Yay. So that's what I mean about like, who are you giving your energy towards? And why is it that because you were born into this family, you have to maintain, if it's not healthy, it's not healthy. My sister lives in the Middle East and we communicate occasionally through apps. She's got her life. She's a born again Christian. She does not understand what I do. And as a matter of fact, not anymore. Like we've grown beyond that stage. But there was a time where she was like, the work you're doing is not of God and I don't approve. So it
Mm.
was really hurtful. And then we're coming back from that. And honestly, when we reconnected, because we were also didn't speak for many years, I said, listen, I am more of who I was 10 years ago. I'm not any less of who I was. And if we're going to embark in relationship, you need to know that. And I'm no longer toning myself down for anyone. And I was very clear with my boundaries. I'm willing to engage in this relationship with you, but I'm more and I'm going to keep being more. So you need to figure out how to deal with that
Well,
because I'm not toning
but the
myself
gift
down
is there
anymore.
too, right? Like I think in you liberating yourself, like you've
Yeah.
gotten to the point where you're so good in your own being and coaching others and teaching others about liberating themselves, that I don't know. I sometimes think like the family that we didn't choose, they teach
Hmm.
us as much as we teach them, even if we don't get to see exactly what the impact is.
100%.
But pushing those boundaries and pushing those edges. I mean, I too get the looks of being weird and whatever, right? It's just like you do what, or, which brings me to what is an erotic priestess, right? Because, I often say I'm a body, sex, and soul coach. And then to make it to simplify it, I'll just say I'm an intimacy coach.
Right. It
Depending
just
on who I'm
depends who you're
speaking
talking
to.
to.
It totally depends on who I'm talking to, and who's getting weirded out by what. It's like, what does that mean? But I want to hear a little bit around what an erotic priestess is, because I think, for anybody out there who doesn't know, for those who do, bless you, but for those who don't, like without, thinking satanic culture here, like what is this beautiful thing called an erotic priestess?
Yeah, I mean, I think the term priestess is becoming more and more available, and there's a lot more people speaking about this lineage. And then there's also like the high priestess, right? And these are all lineages that date back to Isis, Hathor, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary. If you're on this path, and so I got a download, as priestesses do, that I was a sex priestess. And I sat with it and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. My friends were like, well, duh, of course you are. And I sat with it and it felt like a constriction of what is actually available. Because when you put the word sex on anything, again, that glumping of energy, they go straight for the bedroom and straight for this.
Yeah.
And so I was meditating and just being with, what is this sex priestess energy that I'm being told I've been for many lifetimes, right? And in sitting with it, the word that resonates with me the most is erotic. And that's because to me, erotic encompasses everything. Erotic, orgasmic, life force energy. And so an erotic priestess, like Mary Magdalene was an erotic priestess. She used sex magic to to initiate and activate Jesus so that he could do the work that he was coming to do. And we talk about Mary Magdalene, and we usually talk about her like in the heart space, right? As a priestess in the heart, but she was very much a sex magic priestess. And so an erotic priestess, the way that I like to define it and the way that it lands in my work, is someone who is going to support you in the oneness of your sensuality, your sexuality, and your spirituality, where there is no wrongness and there's no shame. And for me personally, in my whole life, right, in my whole career, has always looked like enjoying your life with your body, through your body, living life through your body, not from up here or out here, but like really what is life on this planet like because you have a body, not in spite of it. And I was just doing another podcast and they asked me, like, what would you tell people? I'm like, there's nothing wrong with your body. There's nothing wrong. Like, if you can tap into that innate healing abilities, if you can tap into your eroticism, to your sexual energy, everything is possible and available. We just have to learn how to live in these bodies. When women talk about, like, I'm not turned on anymore, there's something wrong with me. No, honey, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have to relearn how to be in a way that's expansive.
Right?
Yes.
There's so much coming at us in terms of messaging and, what we're taught by parents or sisters or friends, socially, all of it. So that hearing the voice distinction, like I just think about I grew up in dance at a very young age, and I also love to dance, right? I was like, but my door was shut. I was, dancing. I still dance. I dance all over the place. And I think as dancers and just naturally expressive people, we're very lucky because we tend to go to the body very quickly. And there's so many people when you say, tell me how you feel, it goes right up here to the thought. And so trusting the body, that there's a learned, I think that there's something that needs to happen in the rediscovery of what the body feels like. So when you talk about, the body knows, but the body also wants to trust you that you're going to allow it to reveal itself in a way, because there's probably layers put in.
I actually want to give an example of what we're talking about because I have a client that I'm working with, and I just said this to her today. There's been several instances, and she then says, and my body went cold.
Hmm.
I don't know what happened. I just went cold. And this is the third incident where she has said that. And I said, listen, I need you to clock this because your body is speaking to you. And I like really, when your body goes cold, it's like, that's it. You don't need to know everything else. This is not a healthy situation for you. Close the door. You're done. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about listening to our bodies and to the cues that our bodies are giving us and trusting them. We just haven't been taught that. We've been taught that if there's a pain or discomfort, there's something wrong, get medication, go to the doctor, fix it, you're done. And
Yep.
so, you know, the continuous doing of that cycle disconnects us from the wisdom that is actually available. Um, I I also like to tell my clients sometimes your body has what I call like a doorbell. You know, like what
Mhm.
happens when you hear the doorbell in your house? You go to the door, you open the door, you see who's there. You know, the doorbell rang, someone's at the door. Could be a package. Who knows? But you go to the door. So sometimes your body has a doorbell that she's going to keep ringing until you connect the dots. For me, for a long time, it was this like knot that I had in the back of like right behind my shoulder blade. And it would start like doing this. And I knew that that was my body giving me information. Stop, pause, breathe. What is happening right now? Because our bodies are also they're so energetically attuned. Including our head and our brain, the whole nervous system is so attuned to be paying attention to what's happening. It's going to get a message before maybe your cognitive brain can register it, especially if you live in your head a lot and you're always like in go, go, go mode. Um, so that's what we're talking about. I just wanted to give a concrete example of what that means and what that sounds like when we say listening to your body's wisdom and following that wisdom. And I find, well, I'll let you respond. I could talk forever.
Oh no, yeah, no, and I agree. I think there, it, and I think a lot of people's pains, they're so good at like tuning it out, right?
Yep.
Could be Advil, could be the joint,
Medicating
could
it.
be
Yep.
medicating, but also work, just bypassing the body so that it becomes so difficult to listen to attune into that I'm
Mhm.
always like, that silence, that numbness, not silence just, but that numbness where you can't feel anything.
Yeah.
And when you start to listen to the creaks and the sounds and how your
Mhm.
body is responding, that's I think how you start to know your true boundaries, or like something that's
Yeah.
coming up of, oh, that doesn't feel good, or that feels
Yeah.
great, but my head's got a story around it.
Yeah. Can
Um,
I got to give another example about that
yeah,
because
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying is so beautiful and this literally just happened to me. And I'm an introvert. I love being on my own. I love my own company. I have such a rich inner life, that I can go being alone for so long before having to like connect with people. And I had this past weekend I just wanted to be home. I just wanted to be home. I didn't want to do anything. But what does the mind tell? The mind is like, oh, but is this really healthy? You should be with people and all that. And I was like, no, my body wants to rest and be home and do nothing. And it was really intense being home. I was like, this is really interesting. Like, what is happening in the world? Because that's another thing too, right? That we're going to be perceptive to things that are happening around us. And it turned out, and gosh, my heart goes out to all of the families, but it turned out that there was like a mass shooting spree in the city that I just moved into. And when I turned on, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder my body wanted me to stay home and not
Hmm.
do anything. So we have, and I wanted to share that because your body wants to communicate with you. Your body wants to take care of you, wants to protect you, wants you to have the life that you dream of. Like your body wants that with you. But if you've disconnected from the wisdom, and you've disconnected from listening to the messages, then, you know, you're not good. Like your body can't help you on your journey, right? Your
And that is
body is,
the energetic piece. That is the
yes.
piece connected. And I don't care if you want to call it consciousness or source or God or spirituality, however you define it. But when you are attuned, because those little receptors in your proprioception, even if you don't know what's on the news. I mean, I've had those
Hmm.
experiences of being in a club and going, oh, I'm just really, maybe I'm being paranoid, maybe I'm being, and then having removed myself only to find out that
Yep.
there was or a violent
Yep.
event at a club, or
Yep.
I had bypassed when I was very young. I had bypassed. I was about 12 or 13, and I was in Eastern Germany, and I had this feeling behind me of a man, right? And I was like, oh, it's fine. My cousin was like, it's fine, it's fine. There's not a problem, or there's military
Hmm.
everywhere. And he walked right past me and turned around and grabbed me, right? And
Mm.
I mean, and it was okay because I ended up bouncing back, and I ended up going and running. But the bypassing of, oh, I'm crazy, I'm insane,
Yep.
like just, I'm being paranoid, as opposed to listening to what your body's saying. Because we pick up on
Hmm.
it way before
Everything.
our brains can even compute. And even if you don't know that there's a mass shooting or whatever, the fact is there's
Yeah.
messages coming in all the time,
Yeah.
however you want to define it.
I remember I was at an airport in Norway many years ago, and I just was like, oh, I just felt something. I was like, oh my gosh, something is going to happen. And there was like a terrorist attack in Europe. Or I remember right before like the pandemic came, I was like, oh my God, something like if
Yeah.
you really tune in, and this is, I think, really such a beautiful gift of the feminine body, because we are that portal from consciousness to physical reality. That is why our intuition is heightened so much more than most people. It's just my opinion. Um, and we have to really come inward into ourselves, into that intuition, into our womb wisdom, into our connection to the divine. I mean, we need it. We need it because we're starving and we're dying, women,
We are
right?
starving. Yep.
Starving,
Starving.
dying.
Mhm.
And we need it because the world is starving and dying. So if you can't do it for yourself or for your family, do it because the world needs that feminine energy that is aware and present and knows and says, we don't want to go down that alleyway. We don't want to get on that airplane. That's also like, what's the word? Oh, I don't know. Some fierce. Thank you. Hello, perimenopause.
I know. I'm constantly like, what planet am I on? Yes.
What happened? I can see the
I
word
don't
in my
know.
mind, but it's not coming out of my mouth. Fierce.
Right?
We need the fierce feminine, right?
Hmm.
And so, the spectrum of the whole feminine, from the joy all the way to the rage. We need all of that online and available for life in this moment, for us to continue, I think, evolving to the next level, which is complete oneness, where there isn't separation between masculine and feminine, where we are one with all of the energies that are available.
Yeah. And we have it within Western culture. I mean, just take a look around of that. We're still being suppressed, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the world has gone insane. And so there's this um, society, political enforcement of really suppressing this energy,
Hmm.
awake, healing, divine, delicious. And there's so much threat in
Yeah,
deliciousness. There's so much threat in orgasmic energy and sexual
there really
energy.
is.
It, sexuality, we think, oh my God, that only belongs in the bedroom. That's something we can't talk about. And I just want you to touch on, before anything, as we go on, is how you define erotic innocence.
Yes, thank you. Erotic innocence, it's for me, it's the foundation of the work that I do. And let's take eroticism. We've talked a lot about that. Life force energy, erotic energy. It's the energy that fuels everything. That's
Mhm.
erotic. And then innocence, I like to use the words curiosity, wonder, awe. that encompasses that energy of innocence. So when you put it together, it's about approaching everything in your life with curiosity, wonder, and awe. Erotic innocence, it's like this original source energy that we all kind of come into this world with. It's that moment when we're like, yeah, I want to go to planet Earth and I want to experience everything that having a body is available. I want all the feelings, I want all the things. Like, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do it. And then you come into this planet and you're like, woohoo! And then life gives you experiences to experience because that's what you came here for. Some are amazing, some are really shitty, it's the full spectrum. But what happens during that time is that our erotic innocence, which is a lot of what we've been talking about, gets tampered and gets, judged and projected on and expected on. And then our light gets really small and really tiny. And then
Mhm.
there's this whole other layer of erotic innocence that emerges once you've gotten rid of all of the stories and the beliefs and the judgments that don't actually have anything to do with you. And then when you
Mhm.
start really going inward towards yourself, approaching yourself with curiosity, wonder, and awe, then like the real journey, not the real journey, but then there's a whole other springboard to create your life from. And for
Yeah.
me, erotic innocence is the foundation to like sovereignty, into your sexual sovereignty. And then that takes us into, different parts of the framework that I use with clients. But it's my absolute most favorite energy in the world is that of erotic innocence. And yeah, I remember when the words dropped into I was like, who put those two words together? What is that? So then came the adventure of, okay, what is this erotic innocence? What is
Mhm.
this? And
I think
and
it's that
allow me.
child piece, right? That like
Yeah.
when I think about your 3-year-old self, when we're like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and I think about, with my son and so on. And even when I was a child, being a little nudie and running around and feeling really good in the body, which we often do as children, which also gets suppressed really easily because of
Hmm.
other people. I'm going to say fears, shames, perversions, whatever, just being
Yeah.
so that little kids are already being told like cover yourself up type of thing, which I
Yep.
still remember, being told my son's
Yep.
like, you know, that's too much or don't
Yeah.
put on clothes, whatever. He's 3. And for women, so I was just thinking, that piece of innocence to come back into now what I'm going to call mature, right?
Yeah.
So the beauty is to coming back
Yeah.
into that maturity while grabbing onto that full expression. And I'm wondering around men, like how does erotic innocence show up for men?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. I want to add, and you might have to remind me of the question, but what I want to add about erotic innocence that I think is really important to be speaking about right now is because of everything that is happening in the world, especially around women's bodies and children, and really naming this energy so that we can all get used to it and activate our inner masculine to
Mhm.
protect erotic innocence instead of exploiting it,
Yeah.
right? And when we can do that within ourselves, then it'll start making its way into the world. And innocence, like I remember I don't, to be honest, masculine, feminine, that doesn't really apply, I think, to erotic innocence. The male bodies, men, they also have erotic innocence. It's your original spark, your original essence,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And this is really beyond, I think, gender. But oh man, I forgot I tried to answer your question and then my other point went away. Um,
Well, I just
Activating
think around men.
our
So I
own
guess my question, sorry.
no, I
I,
was going
I
to try to pick it back up, but it went away.
Oh,
So
no.
please.
And I was just thinking around like how it applies to erotic innocence applies to men. And what I'm thinking more along the lines of is, what does it look like when men claim their full
Mm,
erotic innocence in a world that also suppresses, again, to be a mature man looks this way, right? And the
right.
truth is what happens when we do open ourselves up to the joy of male sexuality, of masculine
Mm,
sexuality, which is so also incredibly suppressed, right? It's
yeah.
like, don't look at me that way, don't say that comment. And I can't imagine how difficult it is these days to be a man in his eros.
Hmm. Yeah. Such a beautiful question. I've never been asked this before. And admittedly, most of the work that I do is with women, and the work that I do with men has a different flavor. But I love this question. And I think for the masculine, innocence around their own sexuality, and it's coming, innocence around their own sexuality, so that when they express their sexuality, it comes with that lack
Mhm.
of judgment. I think as a society, we shame men about their sexuality just as much as we shame women. It's just a different flavor, you
Yeah.
know, and that shame can be internalized. And so that internalized shame, as they express their sexuality, it comes with that flavor. And the thing is that women are so intuitive to feeling and sensing into what's not being named, then that shame comes through. And then it's like, ugh, this is weird. What is this? You know what I mean? And I think erotic innocence, we all desperately need to be embodying our erotic innocence so that we can be in that curiosity and wonder and awe with each other and not have judgment of each other. For example, like the kinky blueprint is a very judged blueprint. It's a very judged, not as much anymore, but still, it's a very judged
The word kink,
blueprint.
right? The word kink brings up so much fear, I think, around it. It's like, oh, I don't do
Yes.
that. Oh, I bet you've got a kink. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is. Just like you said, what is kinky for you? I mean, oftentimes I think we go into the land of, oh, it's dungeons and muzzles, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's everything that is outside of your box.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when you invite that in,
Whatever, yeah.
that deliciousness, but it's like that growing of, I just think of, if when you stop being creative, when you stop exploring your erotic innocence, when that curiosity, then you
Hmm.
die. We start to
Yeah,
die inside. You see a
yeah.
lot of older people that like kind of hit that menopausal place, and I know the world, thank God, is changing, particularly I feel like in a certainly in a Western culture, that we puritanical mindsets, but that pushing of the edge that keeps us young,
Hmm.
that keeps us growing, whether that's in relationship, on your own, however you want to look at it, but that you want to keep feeling like there's something to get up for the next day.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. While I'm listening to you, I'm having several downloads about your question about the masculine and erotic innocence. And
Good.
one of the things that I'm seeing, um, the cultivation of sexual energy for your own self.
Mhm.
And I'm speaking specifically about the masculine because we've talked a lot about the feminine. So, like, if a man could be erotically innocent, so innocent with his own eroticism, that there's so much power in that for him. And the thing is that we've been entrained to think that men don't have any control over that power, and that's why men do what they do or boys do what they do. But I think we need to empower men in their sexuality just as much as empowering women in their sexuality. And literally, I'm seeing like this channel, right? And a really erect penis, but it's not going outward, it's coming back into the body. And that
Mhm.
is giving that body power. And then the words that I'm seeing are like, that's when they really can step into providing and protecting, because they're channeling their own erotic innocence, their own sexual energy into themselves. And then they don't have to like be at the effect of their hormones and all of the, we just need to fuck all the time, right? Like that's such a archaic bullshit
Mhm.
thing that we've done to men that has given permission for inappropriate behavior that's, harming people. So erotic innocence, thank you so much for that question. Like I had not thought about that at all. And this is so cool. This like instant download of like, oh, that's what that is. Like really, the same for women, like using our sexuality for ourselves to connect to our power so that we can create more in the world in a really grounded, safe, sovereign kind of way. So I had to complete that thought or
No,
that, whatever that was. I was
thank
like, I'm
you. No, I'm
totally
glad that
listening to
you brought
her.
this in. Yeah, letting her come. So thank you for this. I'm gonna transition. I'm just
Yeah.
because again, as we come to nearing an end, we'll see how many questions we get through. I'm gonna ask you my 10 questions.
Okay, let's do
So
it.
tell me, what is the one truth your body has always known that your mind took years to catch up to?
My body has always known that she is extraordinary,
Thank you.
extraordinary,
Yes.
healthy, vital, vibrant. She's always known that. I
Mm,
had to get my mind to like catch up to that for sure.
thank you. What is the most intimate moment you've ever had that had nothing to do with sex?
Hmm. Well, that's hard to answer because when you think of sex and you think of eros and you think
Mhm.
of life force energy that's in everything, every moment is intimate and every moment is extraordinary.
Yeah.
When you really live from that philosophy of living orgasmically and living erotically. I mean, I was sitting on my balcony the other day with the most incredible thunderstorms and lightning storms, and it was so beautiful and so erotic and so peaceful.
Mhm.
So that's the whole point of living erotically is that everything becomes intimate.
Agreed. Thank you for naming that. So if you could be remembered for one sensation you gave someone, what would it be?
Mm, well, the word that comes is safety. And in
Mhm.
terms of sensation, like in the body, just full relaxation, like
Mm,
dropping in all the way down into your womb and feeling safe in that.
thank you. If pleasure were a language, what would your first word be?
Mm.
Mm, you and me together, sister. Okay, if your erotic life had a title, like a novel or a film, what would it be?
If my erotic life had a title, mm. Oh man. Ah, I think that was it. Oh
Mm.
man. Ah.
What is one thing you've never said out loud, but you wish someone would ask you about?
What's one thing I've never said out loud? Oh, I wish a partner would ask me about my kinky fantasies.
Mm. All right. There we go. Now everybody knows, just so you know. What part of your erotic self are you still afraid to bring to the light?
Part of my erotic self. I mean, I'd have to say I am really connected to my sacred rage.
Mm.
And it is something that I continuously, um, what's the word? Like I feel like I'm always lassoing it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, and it's not that I'm afraid, but I honestly don't want to cause harm. And I also really believe in rage being such an important part of our erotic life and our erotic living. So that is something that I'm continuously working with, how to express disgust. Disgust I can do, and that's like the precursor to the rage.
Yeah.
So I think that's an area that I'm always taming and being with and getting into integrity and right relationship with. Not suppressing it, but just taming it, being with it. How do I move this energy in a constructive, healthy kind of way that's going to create change rather than, havoc.
Destruction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
We
I
have
like
3
destruction
more to get
too,
through
but
really fast. I'm
okay.
going to try to do this quickly. So what dies in you when you pretend and what comes alive when you don't?
What dies in you when you pretend? Everything. And what comes alive when you don't? Everything.
Beautiful. Finish this sentence. When I leave this life, I want my skin to remember.
Oh, every single touch.
I love it. I love it. Okay. And if the soul has a scent, what does yours smell like today?
Oh, today my soul smells like roses.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. I know cut off in like seconds. It's brutal. So for anyone who is interested in working with Patty, it's pattyalfonso.com. You can go and check her out. Anything you want to say before blackout?
Just thank you so much for an exquisite conversation. Thank you, everyone still listening. Please come visit me at pattyalfonso.com. I have a Rediscover Your Erotic Innocence free gift, and I'd love to connect. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.